So I think we should begin, and in the meanwhile, the rest of the participants will also join.
Yeah, Pranjal, yeah, I mean, your call. Not an issue, whenever you want to.
Sure, sir. So, hello everyone. A very good evening to all of you. On the behalf of Educating Team, I, Pranjal Arora, welcome you all for our today's session on an overview of the GST Appeals and the GST Appellate Tribunal. In this session, we will explore the framework of GST appeals and understand the pivotal role of the GST Appellate Tribunal. For today's session, we are honored to have with us Shri M. Saravana Prabhu. Sir is a practicing chartered accountant, an expert legal litigator, a tax advisor, an author, and a public speaker. Sir is also an advisor for the top MNCs, including listed in Fortune 500 companies, on tax matter, including GST and other indirect tax laws. Sir is also a renowned tax litigator and dispute resolution professional, having appeared in successfully concluded cases in various fora, including tax tribunals, on key disputes pertaining to tax laws. Sir has also authored various books, including GST, which are followed by tax professionals as well as the departmental officials alike. Sir has addressed nearly 450 plus technical and public outreach programs in GST, covering more than 57,000 plus individuals in and around India. Sir has also appeared in numerous TV programs, interviews relating to GST finance in prominent TV channels, and is also a regular commentator on the topics of finance, economics in the public domain. It is an honor to have you with us, sir, today. Over to you. You can now take over the session. Thank you.
So, thank you, Pranjal, and thank you, Educating, for giving me this platform to talk on this very important topic. So, I can say it is the need of the hour also. This appellate mechanism in GST, especially the appellate tribunal, has been, I can say, overdue, to use the right word. So, it's overdue. So, better, I mean, like, it's like the correct time that the tribunal is also coming, hopefully by. Again, probably you would have heard of it, but the information coming out in the circles is that it is 1st October. So therefore, worst case scenario, it should be 1st of January. So hopefully we'll start a new year with the GST tribunal. But come as it may, it should be 1st of October is what I hear from very well-placed sources. So therefore, yeah. So that being the background, I hope you're all able to, my audio is clear. My screen is clear. Visuals are not that important. So hope screen and audio are clear to all of you.
So audio is perfect and the screen is also visible.
Great. So that being said, now let me again, this is going to be an interactive sessions like probably Naga was, again, thank you Naga for remembering my, this one. I also probably now am able to recollect your face also. So it's good that my students are also, earlier students are also coming in, and I see a lot of known names are also there in the session. I think a lot more will join in another 2 minutes or so. So good that I'm able to address all of you. Now, so let me start off. So you know, my students, why I was saying this, probably my students will know, and probably those who have listened to my sessions also will know earlier. It's going to be very interactive. We hardly have around an hour plus with Q&A also mixed in. So not that much interactive probably, but it will always be interactive only to some extent. So let me start off with the first question for the day. Now, let me ask all the learned members are also sitting, and professionals, etc. In any tax law, be it GST or be it any other tax law for that matter, the appeal, let me ask you a question. Is it a right given by the statute, or a benefit conferred by the statute, or a privilege? Is it a right? Let me repeat. Is the appellate remedy a right given by the statute, or a benefit conferred by the statute, or a privilege bestowed on the appellant? So what do you think it is? Is it a right or a benefit or a privilege? Please feel free to unmute, or please feel free to put it in chat. Those who don't want to unmute, you can put it in chat also, no issues. Benefit. So I see Ashaji commenting it's benefit. Any other answers are there? Now, this is why I'm asking this again. Today's session is going to be like very practical in the sense. these fundamental questions are what you will not find it addressed in any normal forum or any book, normal book that you see. You won't find these questions being answered, but these are very, very critical. I'll tell you exact case law where this particular point was discussed. Not one case law, many case laws are there. So we'll discuss on those. So I'm seeing the answers good. It's very participative today. So I see a mix of benefit and a right. Now let me ask you this next question. What difference does this make? What difference does it make? Right? So if it is a right or if it is a benefit or if it is a privilege, what difference is there? It's just a name, right? Or is there a difference? The answer is anyway, we don't have a lot of time today. The answer is it does make a difference. If it is a, let me put it very mildly, exactly. So Ashaji is rightly saying. So I'm very happy about these answers that are coming in. The benefit, as Ashaji is rightly trying to point out, is something that can be taken back. And in fact, that applies to a large extent. Okay, it can be taken back, taken back prospectively. Whereas if you see a privilege is something that is bestowed on a few individuals or a set of individuals also, that's fine. The government can, we call them as concessionaires. In legal terms, we call them as concessionaires, right? So it can be bestowed even on a certain set of individuals or a particular individual group of individuals also. Whereas a benefit is largely there applicable to the entire public or a set of public, and right is universal, generally speaking. So therefore, there is a difference. And not only that, now my question is, so okay, fine. So I'm getting a mix of answers. So what is probably the correct answer is, or we can say, what do the court say on this matter? I would direct your attention to the decision of the Supreme Court in the case of GlaxoSmithKline, where it was held, and it's not the one-off decision, it is based on many precedents also, right from income tax, right from other tax laws. So GlaxoSmithKline is a recent case law, which I urge all the members here to go through it. We are now seeing a lot of landmark cases coming in. Last week, for example, Armor Security regarding this cross empowerment, all this is coming in. So in that sense, in 2022, GlaxoSmithKline came. It is not a new judgment, but it's a judgment which has been largely missed, I can say. But it is having such a great impact. So there you see in GlaxoSmithKline, one of the paras, it was remarked that the benefit or pardon, the remedy of appeal is a creation of the statute, and it is a statutory right. Now, please note, even if you understand that, so it's a right. Even if you take it as a right, what sort of a right it is? There are various categories or levels of rights. Let me put it this way. There is a fundamental right. There's a constitutional right. There's a statutory right. Right. So there are different types of rights also which are there. Fundamental rights is like absolute. What is conferred in Article 19 of the Constitution? It's like absolute. Of course, subject to certain reasonable restrictions. But it is a, I can say, a highest category of rights that you can find in our Indian law or any law for that matter. Whereas if you see a constitutional right is different from a fundamental right, it is also bestowed by the Constitution only. Fundamental right is bestowed by the Constitution, Article 19, so on and so forth, 20, 21 to some extent. If you see a constitutional right, it is also bestowed by the Constitution, but it is a lesser category of right. For example, in India, as you all know, right to property is no more a fundamental right. Right to property. It was a fundamental right in Article 19(1), but it is no more a fundamental right. After the Minerva Mills case and the pursuant 42nd Amendment of the Constitution, the right to property rights in India are now covered by Article 300A. So therefore, it is conferred by the Constitution only. But it is not a fundamental right, rather it is a lesser category of rights. It is a constitutional right. It can be taken away by the government in a, I mean, you can say a larger case situation where it can be taken away by the government if it is for the greater good. So therefore, a constitutional right. Third is a statutory right, which is even lesser, which is conferred by the respective statute itself. Therefore, as I am seeing, Sanjay ji is also saying that the right to appeal or remedy to appeal is a statutory right. There's no doubt about it, held in GlaxoSmithKline and many other cases. Now, why is this important? If a right is a statutory right as compared to a fundamental or constitutional right, it is conferred by the statute. If it is conferred by a statute, if you have to get that right as a vested right, if that right becomes vested on you, has to be vested on you, you'll have to conform to all the conditions given in that statute. For example, now you're going to see first appeal, Section 107 of the CGST Act, the relevant state GST Act. It is conferred by Section 107. Therefore, if the right under Section 107 is to be vested on the applicant or the appellant, he has to satisfy all the conditions given in 107 and the relevant sections and the relevant rules. He has to satisfy all those conditions for that right to be vested in him. Same is the case with tribunal. Tribunal, again, 112, 113, etc. You will see that it is a statutory right. Again, you'll have to satisfy all those conditions. What conditions, sir? Broadly speaking, we'll talk on all those things today. We don't have a lot of time. I'm just giving the setting, the introduction, so that this framework is solid. We can just move on very quickly. So what conditions are there? The basic conditions that of limitation. In fact, this case of GlaxoSmithKline was a case of limitation only. So you'll see that in the first appeal in GST law 107, the time limit for appeal is 3 months plus a condemnation period of 1 month. You will see that the Supreme Court said under Article 142 also I can't condone this. Under Article 142, if you see, the Supreme Court it is one of the most beautiful articles in the Constitution. If you see the words used there, it says the Supreme Court has the right to do complete justice. That is, it can do anything that it is required in the end to meet the ends of justice. But there it self-imposed certain restrictions saying this condemnation beyond this 3 + 1 month cannot be considered as a power vested in me under Article 142. This is not coming under that category. Otherwise, what will happen if I keep condoning all this, then that 3 + 1 months conferred under section 107 becomes OTOs, it becomes waste, redundant. Therefore, this statutory right of appeal, you'll have to satisfy the conditions given under the section. So one of the conditions that of limitations, that is exactly where GlaxoSmithKline comes in. So limitation is one aspect. Then pre-deposit, we'll see. Once you go to tribunal, the important thing that you have to notice, every appeal or application apart from pre-deposit also has a fee. So the fees is conferred by the rules, and for certain matters, the fees is, for example, interlocutory applications. If you see the relevant rule, if I'm read rule 21, I'll have to again see that. So if you see the relevant rule for interlocutory applications, there is a separate fees prescribed in the rules itself, procedure rules itself. So therefore, please understand, once you come to tribunal, every paper that moves typically is accompanied by a fee also. So therefore, the pre-deposit, the fees to be paid, and so on and so forth. Documents to be accompanied. It's there in the procedure rules, tribunal procedure rules. Documents to accompany an appeal. So a self-attested copy of the order in origin, so on and so forth. Or if it's an electronic appeal, fine, whatever it is. So all these are to be satisfied if that right of appeal is conferred on you, and it has to become a vested right on you. A vested right cannot be taken away. Once you satisfy that condition, is very important. Once you satisfy the conditions and you file the appeal is numbered, then it becomes a vested right. It can't be taken away just like that. So therefore, the statutory appeals therefore becomes a statutory right becomes a vested right. So that is something that will, and it's a higher category of right, just like what we see in ITC, input tax credit. It's a statutory right. But once you satisfy all the conditions, Sutherland Global, case law, Madras High Court, there it said once you satisfy all the conditions, section 16, 17, so on and so forth, read with rules, it becomes a vested right. And a vested right cannot be taken away unless certain fetters are there. So therefore, a statutory right will become a vested right if you satisfy all the conditions. The important thing is that first you'll have to satisfy the conditions, then you'll have to claim the right. You can't claim it just like that as a matter of this one absolute right, like a fundamental or a constitutional right for that matter. Anyway, so having said this small background, so let me move on to the topic itself. So let us start with section, the appellate process hierarchy, which is there. As you all know in GST law, let me just share the this one. I am now probably showing the excerpts from my book also, I think, which will be a much more better way to discuss this topic because it's updated with what happened even last week. It is updated. So therefore, let me start off with that. I hope the PDF is visible to all of you. So if you see in GST law, the appeal is, Pranjali, I think it's visible to all of you, right?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah, it's visible. Fine. So if you see the appellate process, again, I've inverted the thing here. So I've gone from bottom to top. So anyway, it's the other way around. If you see, the appellate process is a 4-tier process in GST law. Just brushing up on the basics. So first you have the first appellate authority. So and then you have the tribunal again, which is now coming into operation. This is now getting operationalized. So first appellate authority. Typically, the second appeal is with the tribunal. Third appeal is with the High Court, and the fourth and the last appeal is with the apex court. Of course, there are various other layers to it. Now, here I'm talking about, always you'll have to remember, when we talk about appeal before any forum, especially courts. Okay, first appeal, second appeal tribunal, fine. These two are okay. But once you talk about courts, especially High Court and Supreme Court, they have many jurisdictions under which they can entertain matters. So one is the normal appellate jurisdiction, which is the matter travels from first appellate authority to tribunal, then to High Court, then to Supreme Court. Certain matters directly go to High Court, so on and so forth. So the normal appellate jurisdiction or the four-tier process is there. So this is called as original appellate jurisdiction, especially when you file a matter before the High Court. You'll have to tell under which jurisdiction are you filing. So it's an original appellate jurisdiction which is there. Whereas, as you all know, under High Court and Supreme Court for that matter, Article 32, Article 226, you can also go under the writ jurisdiction in certain cases. Violation of Article 12, 14, so on and so forth. You can also go under writ jurisdiction. So that's a separate jurisdiction that is there. That is not the appellate jurisdiction. That is a writ jurisdiction that you can go under certain cases of violation of natural justice, so on and so forth. Summary order, non-recent order, Article 14, typically speaking, is violated. So you go to writ jurisdiction. And third, once you go to Supreme Court, you also have the jurisdiction under a special leave petition. A direct jurisdiction is also there, where, as I said, 142, it has the power to do complete justice. So therefore, a special jurisdiction is also there before the Supreme Court. So all this aside, now we are looking at only the appellate jurisdiction, is what I'm trying to say. The other writ jurisdiction, other matters, probably we are not covering in depth today session. We are just going at the appellate jurisdiction alone, which is a four-tier process. Typically, in certain cases, it is a three-tier process where certain levels are skipped. We will see that also. So four-tier process there. Fine. Now, having seen that, now let's start off with the first appellate authority, appeals to the first appellate authority, which is typically governed by section 107. Now, what are the sections we are going to discuss? Sections we are going to discuss are from 107 to 119, 107 to 119. So these are the sections we are going to discuss along with the relevant rules wherever are there. It is already put in that relevant place itself. So along with the relevant rules, we are going to discuss it. Now, 107. Now, first thing that we have to, so there's a standard way in which probably you can certain things, when you're filing an appeal, we can say a checklist. See, today's session is again a practically oriented session. So certain tick marks, certain checklists that you have to keep it in mind is what we have to really study the law, read the law like that. Because when you're filing an appeal, these tick marks should be there. This checklist should be followed. In that sense, first tick mark is the order an appealable order or not? Especially first appellate authority, what is the appealable order? What orders can be appealed? Now, please note very carefully, if you look at the word, it says any decision or order. It doesn't restrict itself to only order which is used in other sections. It says any decision or order. Sir, what? So can there be a decision without an order? That's the next question you will come. Answer is yes, there are certain cases where a decision can be made without an order being passed. There are many such situations, especially in case of cancellation, etc. There are certain cancellation of registration, etc., where you especially apply for revocation without an order being passed. There are many situations where the decision is being made without an order being passed. So any such decision or order both come under the jurisdiction of this particular appealable order concept. So that's an important thing that I want you to keep it in mind. So a decision followed by an order or a decision by itself, right? Then your question will come, sir, how will I appeal against a decision without an order, sir? That's another thing, procedural thing. But why is the word decision coming is what you'll have to really see. So a decision or order passed by an adjudicating authority is the thing. So below the first appellate authority, we have the adjudicating authority. Typically, what we see is the DRC 7 order. If it is a demand order, it is a DRC 7 order, correct? So DRC 7 summary, order in original, we used to say, accompanied by the order in original. So this is typically what we are seeing. But this is not the only order that we are seeing. In refund matters, we have refund order. Refund, especially where there is a RFD 8 followed by rejection of refund. That is also an order. A rejection of revocation through an order. So these are all orders. So there are many sections under which the orders can flow. For example, we have best judgment assessment orders also being there under 63, 64, so on and so forth. So there are many sections from which the orders can flow. But typically 95% of the cases we'll see the order is the DRC 7 summary plus the order in original quantifying a demand is what we are seeing as the typical order that we are talking about under this section passed by the adjudicating authority. Fine. So this is the appealable order. Are there certain non-appealable orders? Yes, there is a separate section which says what orders are non-appealable. What orders are non-appealable? Typically speaking, all executive decisions of the administration are non-appealable. Department is there, right? Any executive decision that is being taken, for example, transfer of jurisdiction internally from time to time, they may transfer your jurisdiction. So your case may also get transferred. So this is one of the non-appealable orders. So therefore, there are certain orders which are listed as non-appealable orders separate. Probably it is there at the end of the PDF also. So there are certain non-appealable orders also. So typically, apart from those non-appealable orders, any other decision or order passed by the adjudicating authority is what we are coming here. When should the appeal be filed? 3 months from the date of communication of such a decision or order, plus continuation of 1 month is there if there are sufficient cause for such delays. So 3 plus 1 month. 3 months is an absolute right. 1 month subject to sufficient cause being shown. You'll have to show that. And now we are exercising it as a matter of what is it, procedure. But if you see again, sufficient cause has to be shown. Please note, in the first appeal, you don't have the, for especially condemnation matters, it just goes as a routine. But once you come to tribunal, it is 3 plus 3 months. 3 months condemnation is there. That 3 months condemnation, especially if it passes more than 2 months, the DR, the departmental representative, will object to your condemnation. You show a medical certificate. I'm not well, sir. I've been out of action for so and so because of this so and so. He will counter this medical certificate. That is not enough. Right, at this time, you are making all phone calls. You are doing all your activity of filing your returns. You are giving this medical certificate and you are claiming condemnation. So an immediate counter will come. So when condemnation is there, you'll have to properly justify it. Fines are there. I have my people doing it, but just that they didn't put that much of attention there. So personally, I'm a medical, this one, I'm a very small organization. This one illness was there. You'll have to justify it, especially in the second appeal. Therefore, please be very careful. The second limit of 1 month or 3 months, as the case may be, before the tribunal is subject to sufficient cause being shown for such delay. So 3 plus 1 month. Let's restrict to 107 first. 3 plus 1 month. Now, how should the appeal be filed? Typically, it is a electronic appeal only. You have DRC 7 coming online along with the order in original. So using that, you all know how you are filing, right? So the portal comes, you'll have to go to the appeal module. Once you go there, you enter the reference number, ZD, so on and so forth, the appeal reference, order in original reference number, you have DRC 7 reference number you have, it will get auto-populated. Then you'll have to file your statement of facts, grounds of appeal, all these things. Then you'll have to fill up the form. So electronically, typically you'll have to file it. But with effect from 4/8, that is exactly 1 year back, an important amendment has come wherein earlier manual filing was also allowed. Just like that, a rule was there for manual filing. Now you see where a decision, manual filing is allowed. If you see the next one, so typically it is electronic appeal. If you are going to file a manual appeal, it is allowed only in these cases, not anything else. So this effect with effect from 4/8/2023, exactly 1 year back, the amendment came, where the commissioner has so notified. I don't remember any such notification having come even after a year, but the power is there. Next, or the same cannot be filed electronically due to non-availability of the decision online. Fine, the order is not there online. I'm not able to file the appeal also online. So manual order is there, manual appeal. Electronic order is there, electronic appeal. So this is typically the case where especially intelligence-based actions are taken, where and certain central formations also, now everything is online. Typically now you see last few months, everything is online, even in the central jurisdiction. But you saw that in earlier cases, central jurisdiction used to pass manual orders, and especially intelligence-based orders, DGJ or the state intelligence, preventive, so on and so forth. The manual orders used to come. So in such cases where you are not able to file the, you don't have a online order, then in that case, you have a manual order, file a manual appeal. You are allowed to do that. But you'll have to get your case numbered here very carefully in this particular case, otherwise you will be missing it out. Therefore, electronic filing is a rule. but manual in certain cases. Now, when the order is filed online, there is no requirement to file that is, if you look at it, in case of manual appeal only, there is a requirement for filing the certified copy of the decision or order. So if you look at the electronic appeal, the system itself is picking up the order. So now what, as a matter of practice, is going on, even in electronic appeals, you are signing, self-attesting the order in original and you're filing it across. But if you see the rule very carefully, section very carefully, here, once the online order has come, now after especially these amendments, there is no more a requirement to file the certified copy of the order online, but you can do it as a matter of utmost caution. There's no problem in doing it. But if you look at it very carefully, it's not required. And submitting after electronic filing, we are going and submitting it manually also within 7 days, after 7 days, all this confusion was there. So for electronic filing, all this is not applicable anymore. But having said that, you can do it as a matter of practice. And if you want to get your appeal numbered very quickly, you're facing challenges. If you just file it online and leave it, you're getting challenges. Therefore, you can do it. There's no problem, but the rule does not mandate it, is what I'm trying to say. So if it is an electronic order, you file online, it's enough. There's no requirement for submitting it physically, and a certified copy of the order should be submitted within 7 days only in case of a manual appeal, as I've highlighted here. But you can still do it.
So,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you in between. A few participants have the point that your voice is a bit low.
1 second.
If you
Okay,
could
then
please
I'll
check
hold
it
my
once.
mic a little closer. Is it now better?
Can everyone please confirm if the voice is better now than earlier? Yes, sir.
Okay, so
It
let
is
me
perfectly
hold the
all right.
mic a little. Yeah, so I was, since you are there, I thought, I mean, like everything is all right. Fine, fine. Anyway, no issues. So,
I was getting the voice properly. I think a few participants
some
was.
bandwidth, yeah, bandwidth issues usually are there. I'll hold it close, no problem.
Sure, sir, no issues.
Yeah, 1 second. So, sorry. Right. So therefore, but what happens is it becomes difficult for me to scroll if I use this hand. Anyway, no issues. I'll try to do it. So therefore, manual filing is there. You'll have to file the certified copy of the order along with the appeal set within 7 days, and the APL acknowledgement will be issued to you. In case of electronic filing, it's actually not required, but you can do it as an utmost caution. Now, coming to departmental appeal, the time limit is 6 months. You all know that department can go on appeal against its own order. So therefore, the department can also file an appeal, in which case the time limit is 6 months and the APL form is APL 03. Now, as I said, when you are filing an appeal, this limitation is first a tick box that you have to check. The second tick box that you have to check is that of a pre-deposit. Departmental appeal, of course, there's no pre-deposit, right? So the check and balance is there only for assessee appeal. So for assessee appeal, the pre-deposit to be made is 10% of the tax alone. There's no requirement to pay pre-deposit on the interest component or the penalty component, but will come. So if it is an order involving tax, interest, and penalty, 10% of the tax, of the disputed tax, is to be paid as pre-deposit. Of course, if you are admitting any liability, there are 5 issues, 2 issues I'm admitting, sir, let me pay it across in full. Admitted liability, there's no concept of 10%, 100% you have to pay. So out of 5 issues, 2 issues are admitting, 100% paid tax. Of course, if it is admitted liability, you'll of course pay the interest and penalty also, typically speaking. So the law also says that if you're admitting any liability, tax, interest, so on and so forth, as there in the order for that issue to be paid in full. Whereas, let's say out of 5 issues, 3 issues are being disputed. So out of the 3 issues disputed liability, 10% if you pay, it's enough. 10% of what the tax component to be paid, it's enough. So 10% of tax is enough to be paid. The maximum pre-deposit is 25 crores that is to be paid, and that is under each act. And if it is IGST, the maximum pre-deposit is 50 CR, which is nothing but 25 plus 25. Now, this is for rarest of cases where the amount is itself huge. Of course, in departmental appeal, there is no pre-deposit required. Now here I would, this typically most of you will know, I am not bothering you too much with that. Now an important amendment is there, probably I'm not sure how many of you have noticed, but this is a very important amendment. Now all of you know that in certain cases, especially 129, so on and so forth, where detention is happening, check post detention is happening. All of us know that section 129 says that 200% is levied as penalty under 129. Please note, after amendment to section 129, there is no more tax plus penalty. The entire, so earlier it used to be 100% tax plus 100% penalty. After all amendments have come, it is now 200% penalty has to be paid. For example, the tax is 1 lakh. Tax amount on that particular transaction is 1 lakh. 2 lakhs is levied as the penalty under 129. So detention cases, check post cases where 200% of the liability is levied as penalty only order. So the question will come, sir, is there no pre-deposit? Answer is no. Now the Finance Act has brought in this particular concept wherein if it is only a what is that, a penalty order, then in that case, please look at the substituted proviso. So the pre-deposit is 25% earlier, but if I am right, 1 second. Right. Proviso substituted is, I remember 10%. I think it's for the second, 1 second. Correct. So once the earlier it was 25% of the penalty imposed under 129 subsection 3. But once the amendment kicks into effect, that is, it is now there in the budget. As you all know, budget amendments are generally notified later. So as on date, I don't think it is still notified. So once the provision becomes notified, in case it is only a penalty order, typically 129(3) orders. But here the important thing to note is that after the budget amendment comes in, two important changes have happened. One, the pre-deposit of 25% has now become 10%. So it's a welcome relief. Point number one. So the pre-deposit requirement is lowered, 10%, same as what we are seeing for normal appeal. So in detention cases or penalty only case also, the pre-deposit now becomes 10%. But please note here, there's no tax, there's only penalty. Correct? So 10% of, because it's only penalty order. So 10% of that penalty, of the said penalty, is to be paid as pre-deposit. So the penalty only order, then in that case, 10% of the penalty has to be paid as pre-deposit. This is the first amendment. Second amendment that has come post this budget 2025 is that this proviso is no longer applicable only to detention cases, 129 cases. It is not only applicable for 129 cases, it is applicable for all penalty cases. All penalty only cases, which means what? There are many cases where, for example, a personal penalty is levied. In case of a company, there is no proper cooperation from the directors, so on and so forth. Then in that case, there is a practice of levying a personal penalty on the directors also. So in such cases where a personal penalty is being levied on the directors and penal proceedings are being initiated, there in that case, it is also a penalty only order. There again, 10% of that penalty has to be paid as pre-deposit. Therefore, two amendments are there post the budget. One is, it is now applicable, this proviso is now applicable for all only penalty orders, not only 129. Second is, pre-deposit is 10% and not otherwise. Fine. 1 second. Deepak ji is asking, okay, I'll clarify on this particular point. So can you explain only the personal penalty aspect? Fine. So that's a comment I'm seeing. Sir, certain cases, again, the section 122 and the other sections also have a leeway for this. So probably you don't submit during audit or during the adjudication proceedings. There's a little bit of non-production of required documents during the adjudication or during this one. Then there is a practice of levying a penalty not only on the company. Company will be generally levied a penalty for non-production of books, so on and so forth. But apart from that, a personal penalty on the directors is also levied. So the directors of the company are also levied a personal penalty. So therefore, once such personal penalty is levied, then in that case, it becomes it's getting covered under this particular thing, wherein there also a 10% pre-deposit is enough. So this is the first question. Fine, I got one more question. Mrigendra ji is asking 10% of the invoice amount. No, sir, 10% again of the penalty amount, sir. So let's say the invoice amount is 1 lakh. The tax amount is, I'm talking about a detention case. So invoice amount is 1 lakh. So 18%, let's assume. So the tax amount is 18,000. So in that case, the penalty in detention cases will be 36,000. So it is 200%. So tax is 18,000, penalty will be 36,000. So 36,000 will be the penalty under 129. So out of 36,000, 10% is 3,600. So that has to be paid as the pre-deposit. So one more question which has come is, I think 40 crores is the maximum pre-deposit, sir. If my understanding is correct, 107, the limit is still this one. Anyway, probably we'll go and look at the act also. But if I'm right, there's an amendment, I think that is there in tribunal appeal, not in this particular situation, if my understanding is correct. Anyway, you're right, there is an amendment in the maximum penalty that has come. I think probably in the next few pages, we'll get that clarified also. So in tribunal appeal, there's a change in the maximum limit, but not here, I guess. Anyway, we'll have a look at that one. One second. So since you have asked this specifically, let me also look at the act. Yeah, you're right. It's 107 only. Thank you for pointing it out. So yeah, it's there. Probably the modified version of the book, the final copy here. It's changed. It is a little older, this one. So it's 40 CR. What is that? With effect from 1st of November 2024, which is 20 CR each head, and if it is IGST, it is 40 CR. Perfect. So once again, then let me open the latest version of my book also. Yeah. So now I hope you're able to see. Thank you, Vinodji, for pointing it out. So now you're able to see that it is changed. All right. So let me use this version then to discuss. Right. So with effect from 1/11/2024, it has changed to 20 CR. So that's a little older version. Quickly I opened it. So this is the latest version of the book also, and the law has also changed. I've confirmed it. Great. So anyway, now moving across very quickly to the first appeal, probably we have covered. Now, a certain things, few things we'll have to really keep it in mind when we are discussing this first appeal, etc., etc. Now, let me go back to the provision. Let's discuss a few finer aspects before we go to the tribunal. Now, when we come to the appeal part of it, so now we have seen typically what is a limitation, what is a pre-deposit, etc. A few more aspects also we need to keep it in mind. One is, now you have filed the appeal. You have filed it within this 3+1 months. You have paid the pre-deposit also, maximum pre-deposit as a month, whatever it is, you have paid it. Now your appeal is filed, it's numbered, and now it's coming up for hearing. Now, a typical thing that happens is during hearing, what happens is there could be situations where you would have missed out certain facts, evidence, etc., to be presented during the original adjudication stage. At the adjudication stage, I missed this evidence, or I couldn't get this certificate, especially 183 certificate, all this, I'm not able to get this earlier, but now I have got it. Can I use this during appeal? Additional evidence, additional documentation, etc. Can I present it during the, or additional facts, can I bring it on record during the first appeal? This is a typical question. Second is legal grounds. Additional grounds, that is, first what I'm saying is facts, additional documents, additional facts, etc. Can I bring it on record during the first appeal? Additional evidence. Second is legal aspects, facts and law, correct? Second, legal aspects. So additional points of law can I argue now during the first appeal? I see some other consultant has argued the adjudication, he has not done justice. He has not argued these 1, 2, 3 points. Right? For example, ineligible credit matter, 17.5 CED, so on and so forth. He has not even argued safari retreats, so on and so forth. So now can I argue it? Additional points of law, can I argue it during the first appeal? What do you feel? Now let me ask a question, since this one, let me make it as an interactive discussion. Can I argue additional points of law? Can I argue, or can I present additional evidence? So yes, Anupanaji is rightly pointing out. So it's 112 rule is there. Perfect. So now, right. Now let me put it this way. Now, what is the important thing that you'll have to notice is, apart from 112, if I am right, let me probably go to my book also and see. 1 second. Now, what has happened is, now we are talking about the first appeal, correct? In tribunal, we have the tribunal procedure rules. There, if you see, apart from rule 112, we have, so what I'm trying to put it on screen, I hope it's visible to all of you. What Annapurna is also rightly trying to point out. So we have rule 112. That's applicable for all cases. So before if you see, it says before the appellate authority or before the tribunal also. So it's applicable for both the appellate stages. Whereas now, once you come to the tribunal, we have now tribunal procedure rules also. If I come down below, if I write now, I think it's covered here itself. Also covered the case laws. So one second. We have separate provisions in the GST procedure rules also talking about this additional evidence. I just want to tell you the exact rule number. Probably let me try to just give one more try and try to get that. Yeah, so rule 45. So once you have come to the tribunal, we have an additional rule 45 also covering this particular aspect. So we have generally rule 112 of the CGST rules 2017, which is applicable both for first appeal and the tribunal appeal also. Rule 112 is there. Apart from that, when you come to tribunal, you also have rule 45, which is specifically covering this tribunal. In that situation, can we produce additional evidence or not? Now there's a question that is coming. Once already there is rule 112, which is there. Why is there a separate provision in rule 45 of the GST rules? And if you see, rule 112 and rule 45 are not in sync. There are a lot of changes, which I've tried to probably highlight it also in the material. There's a lot of difference also. If you see rule 45, the powers are abridged. The powers are limited. Rule 112, if you see, it is a little bit wider also. Anyway, we'll try to cover rule 112. But what I'm trying to say is, once you come to the tribunal, you also have to be in keeping in mind the tribunal procedure rules also, apart from CGST rules. So anyway, now let's discuss rule 112 of the CGST rules. But what I'm trying to point out is rule 45 of the GST procedure rules are much smaller. The powers are much limited. So now let's discuss rule 112. Therefore, if you see, the answer is yes. Now let me put it this way. Once in the first appellate authority, you're giving the additional evidence. Generally, if you look at rule 112 also, when do you give additional evidence? If you are prevented by sufficient cause, and which you'll have to demonstrate also. You are prevented from sufficient cause. It's an external certificate that I have to get. 183, you have to get certificate from a vendor, from his chartered accountant, or many customs matters. There's in fact a ruling on this. Supreme Court ruling in customs matters, where you have to go and get a certificate from Directorate General of Health Services to claim that exemption as a pharma device. So an external authority, especially another government authority, has to give a certificate. It is not in your control, right? So lex impossibilia. So it is not. It is difficult for you to comply within that given timeline. So there, probably, if you are prevented by sufficient cause, I'm just giving examples, not limited to this. So you're prevented from sufficient cause, then in that case, you are, for want of time, I'm just going a little fast, hope it's okay. So you are allowed to submit additional evidence if you are prevented from sufficient cause, and that you'll have to demonstrate also. But the opposite party has to be given an opportunity to give his rebuttal to that. In fact, if you see the GST procedure rules, any additional evidence that you are bringing on record, there is a separate opportunity for the respondent to file a cross objection, and then you can give your rejoinder to that cross objection. So all these are perfectly codified at the tribunal level. So anyway, that's tribunal. As far as the first appeal is concerned, answer is yes, you are allowed to give this additional evidence. Generally, it will be allowed only if you are able to demonstrate that sufficient cause, which is much more difficult at the tribunal level. We'll have to see rule 45 also. As I said, the rule 45, the powers are a little lesser. Therefore, you'll have to be very, very careful when you go to the tribunal. The powers under rule 45 to introduce additional evidence becomes much tougher. So therefore, additional evidence, answer is yes. What about additional grounds? Additional grounds, if you look at the law, there is not much of great clarity on this. But if you see, there are again case laws, decided case laws on this aspect, where in additional grounds also, points of law, again, same concept is there. Probably, let's say a case where a retrospective amendment is coming, something like 16.4, 16.5, pardon, 16.5 and 16.6. So any retrospective amendment is coming, which you could not have argued at the adjudication stage. Or let's take a case of a clarificatory circular coming. which covers your matter, especially for that period. A clarificatory circular is coming later, again, which has retrospective effect, Woodpacker's Supreme Court decision, so on and so forth. An explanation is being introduced, which is clarificatory in nature. So all these additional grounds you could not have argued before the adjudicating authority. Now there are certain amendments which are directly either directly retrospective in nature or which are clarificatory, therefore retrospective in nature, which are coming up. Therefore, in such cases, you are allowed to introduce this additional grounds also. Therefore, as a matter of procedure, if you are again prevented by sufficient cause, you can introduce this additional evidence. And I've tried to point out the case of in the case of income tax, Shivajirao Nilankar Patel is one of the typical cases which he argued before the ITAT, where if you want to introduce any additional grounds, and Jute Corporation, again a Supreme Court case in general law, where such additional grounds are typically allowed in retrospective amendment cases, are prevented from sufficient cause to introduce these things. Anyway, so a few things that you'll have to keep it in mind is additional evidence, additional grounds. The thumb rule is, as if I have to put it in a very simple manner, generally accepted in the first appellate stage if you are able to show sufficient cause, but much more difficult at the tribunal level. So if I have to put it this way, in first appeal, the rule is generally yes, you are allowed to do, unless you are not able to demonstrate that sufficient cause. So generally, yes, that is the rule. Whereas once you come to tribunal, it is the opposite. If you read the rule 45, it is a negative provision. In tribunal, additional evidence, additional grounds generally no, unless you are able to fit into the exception. So this is the best probably a description of the difference between the two appeal forums. Therefore, what I'm trying to say, the higher up you go into the appellate order, introducing additional grounds or introducing additional evidence becomes that much tougher. So once you go to the tribunal, the general principle is no, it will not be allowed unless you are able to fit into the exceptions under Rule 45, so on and so forth. Therefore, I used to say to my team and to whoever I'm taking, etc., sessions, etc., I used to say, at the lowest possible level, introduce all maximum facts that are possible. These are two words that you'll have to remember. Lowest possible level, maximum possible facts. We'll have to introduce it as much as possible. Whatever grounds are there, we'll have to take it at the lowest stage possible. So this is something that, as a matter of practice, I can definitely recommend. So anyway, coming back, so additional evidence, additional grounds. These are something that you'll have to always keep it in mind. Now let me come to 107 again. Now, a few more things. Now, I hope it's okay. I'm going a little deeper, but once I finished off probably the, because we have hardly an hour and extra, so on and so forth. So I think I can take a little bit more time in the first appeal itself, because then tribunal rules, we can just get a brush up and move on. The principles are similar in tribunal also. Now, the next question comes, the 3 months plus 1 month is from the date of communication of the decision or order, correct? Now, anyway, see, each of these topics, we can take half an hour to discuss all the relevant principles, how the law is changing, the words are changing, small words here and there makes a lot of difference. But anyway, for want of simply putting it, so the time limit is 3 months from the date of communication, correct? So therefore, as a matter of simply saying date of receipt, for the time being, let's keep it. Date of receipt of the decision or the order, you'll have to appeal within 3 months plus 1 month. Now comes the question, when has the order being communicated to you or having been received, deemed to have been received by you? So here there has been a lot of dispute. Merely uploading it in the portal, is it enough? There are cases where we are seeing it is kept on being uploaded in the portal, reminder one, notice is being uploaded, reminder 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. ASI has not seen it at all. Then DRC 7 order is being plus order is being passed. That also is not aware of it. Then 3 months plus 1 month, everything is gone. Then he is rushing to High Court. So therefore, the question comes: if just mere serving in the portal is enough, does that tantamount to, that is merely issue, or does it tantamount to receipt also? So what is, or should I serve it in the portal plus other means of communication? What do the High Court say? So here there are two decisions that you'll have to keep it in mind. So here there are two decisions. Again, I think this is before the Madras High Court. Both the decisions are before the Madras High Court. So therefore, without going too much into the, this one, once again, I think it's there in the discussion is there. I remember the case law's name. Let me try to type it out. 1 second. Case of Bhumika in Infra is there. Yeah, perfect. It is there below itself. Fine. So that's what I thought. I tried to cover the case laws also below the relevant discussion itself. So two landmark cases have come in this 2025 in the Madras High Court, which changes the entire paradigm shift, we can say. Entire goalpost is being changed. Earlier, the high courts were typically saying such communication, when you do it on the portal, etc., it's not sufficient. If you look at 169, which talks about the mode of service of notice, one of the modes of service of notice is, of course, serving it through the portal, common portal. But the high courts have consistently held that you could attempt the other modes of service also, just merely uploading it in the portal, especially in additional notices tab, etc. It's not tantamount to serving the notice under 169. Whereas now, pursuant to this Bhumika infra developers, and there's one more case which I have covered below, this Axiom Gen. So these two cases have changed the entire goalpost. This trend has started in Madras. I'm pretty sure that over the course it will be replicated in other high courts also. The goalpost has changed. There, to some extent, the orders seem to be reasonable also, but I still differ with many points in these judgments. But I'll try to tell what is there in these judgments and in what way the jurisprudence is going. Now, pursuant to these two cases of Bhumika Infra and Axiom Gen Next, after these two cases, the provisions of Information Technology Act also becomes relevant. These have also been argued in these proceedings. How effectively they have been considered is different. If you look at section 13 of the Information Technology Act, there they make a distinction between a designated computer resource and a non-designated computer resource. What is designated computer resource is not defined, unfortunately, under the Information Technology Act or any other act. What is designated resource is not defined. This particular case law has, and the Honorable Justice Mohammed Shafi has interpreted the word designated, computer resource as your GST login and your whatever GST portal login has been given to you. So that has been deemed, the portal has been deemed to be a designated computer resource. What the reason being, you yourself are giving the user ID, you are giving your mail ID, you are giving your phone number. So you are designating that this is your computer resource. Now, why is this important? If it is a designated computer resource, if the portal is deemed to be a designated computer resource, once you upload the order in the portal or the notice in the portal, it is deemed to have been issued and deemed to have been served also the moment it is uploaded. Note this very carefully. The moment it is uploaded, it is deemed to have been communicated and served to you. Again, now I am abridging both the words, but I'll tell you the googly at the end of the thing. So it is deemed to have been served to you. Let me put it that way. Not only issued, but also served to you. If it is a designated computer resource, if it is a non-designated computer resource, it is deemed to have been served to you only if they upload it and you download it. So this is the distinction made in section 13 of the Information Technology Act. Therefore, these case laws have, or this particular decisions, both these decisions have deemed your GST portal login as a designated computer resource, and in which case, the moment it is uploaded, it is also deemed to have been issued and served also. So this is the goalpost which has changed. Earlier, it was not the case. You should have downloaded it and you should have read it. Then it only deemed to have been served and communicated to you also. Whereas not the case now. But having said that, Axiom gives a way out. Axiom says that fine, it is a designated computer resource only, no doubt about it. Once you issue it on the portal itself is enough. The other modes of service are not required. They are not see, if you look at the law, they also say that you compare with the old CST law, the general sales tax law, what was there, and the earlier VAT laws also, which was there. Similar sections are like section 169 are there in the old laws also. There you see they have made a distinction between parallel modes of service and alternate modes of service. What is alternate modes of service? If you see 169, they have given you so many modes of service. Each of them are alternate. You serve it through the portal, or you serve it through courier, or you serve it through so on and so forth. Paste it in the premises or through hand, so on and so forth. They're all alternate modes of service. You do one, it's enough. One or the other, it's enough. Whereas if you look at certain sections, how it is designed, you'll have to do both parallelly. You'll have to serve it in the portal, plus you'll have to do this mail communication also. You have to serve it in the portal, plus you have to communicate in the SMS also, or whatever it is. So they are concurrent modes of service. Whereas if these two cases have also said that if you look at 169, the way it is structured, it is only alternate modes of service or only is there. So it is, even though I don't want to go too much into that and point out. So this is what I'm trying to say is what the case laws say. So they're all alternate modes of service. You do either one or the other, it's enough. So serve it in the portal is enough, and it is deemed to have been served on you also because of section 13 of ITR. So the goalposts are squarely changed in the department's favor. But having said that, Axiom gives a way out. Axiom says that fine, this is effective communication only. Once you serve it in the portal, it is an alternate mode. I agree. It's a designated computer, so I agree. It's serving also. I agree that. But once you keep on uploading and there is no response from the other side, you should have, as a matter of utmost prudence, tried the other modes of communication. It says it is sufficient service. Axiom says if you upload it in the portal, it is sufficient service. So you are meeting the bar set by the law, by 107, Redwood 169, so on and so forth. You are meeting that bar. But what it says, it is not enough you meet the bar. It is a matter involving money, it is matter involving tax. You'll have to go one step above and you'll have to see that it is served. So you serve 3 reminder notices, no response. You serve the order, there's no response. You would have tried other modes as a matter of going over and above the law and trying to do something extra also. It is not an effective mode of service. It is sufficient, but it is not effective. That is the comment made in Axiom. It is sufficient as per law, but it is not effective. If it is not effective, then probably you give him one more chance. So anyway, so this issue versus service. But having said all that, what I was trying to say is, I want all the learned members here to go and read the law very carefully. A small word in the law makes a whole lot of difference. The entire discussion here is when the order is served in these two case laws, sufficient service versus efficient service. But if you look at section 107, 169 talks about service, okay, sufficient, efficient, all this is okay. But if you look at 107, if you go and look at it, I'm saying the word service itself is not there. If you look at 107, it is only communication. That's the important word, and this point has been overlooked, in my opinion, in all these case laws. What did we see? 3 months from the rate of communication, correct? So what exactly is communication? That is not there in 169. Is service equal to communication? If you ask me, it's no. Communication is bringing it to the knowledge of the person. It is not effectively communicated otherwise. Maybe it may have been served, but it is not communicated still. Therefore, that's something to watch out for. Anyway, so after all these case laws, when is the exact notice served, etc., is another important thing. Anyway, for quickly winding up the first appeal, because you'll have to move on to the other appeal also. One more typical question. The pre-deposit is 10%, right? Now, my question to you is, should the pre-deposit be paid in cash only, or can it be paid through credit also? So Rishabh ji is saying ITC also. So again, the jurisprudence is hot on this topic. Yeah, so department's own notification is there. Department's own circular is also there, which indirectly points to the fact that especially when the amnesty scheme came for belated filing of appeal, 3 plus 1 month is over, but we allow you to file the appeal within this one. There they typically said that you'll have to pay so much in, you'll have to pay instead of 10% pre-deposit, you'll have to pay 12.5%. There in that notification, department itself said that you'll have to pay that extra 2.5% pre-deposit only using cash, which means that the earlier 10% could be paid using cash or credit. So there are many arguments and earlier department circulars also. If you look at old law, service tax, excise, so on and so forth, there are many decisions also which say that you can use SENVAT credit, now ITC. So you can use it, there's no problem. But department own notification GST for the amnesty scheme is also there. So having said all that, there were contradictory case laws both sides. But after the decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Yasho, which I've tried to cover, I think also here. So in the case of Yasho Industries, now the Supreme Court decision has come where I can say final conclusion has been given. It is a 2-page order nonetheless, but the merits are discussed if you ask me. So after Yasho, 1 second, I think I've covered it. Not able to, just 1 second. Yeah. After Yasho Industries, so I have covered it here. So after Yasho Industries, so the this is Gujarat High Court, I think Supreme Court I covered lower. Yeah. So yeah, this is Supreme Court order. So after this, there's no room probably left for interpretation where you can even use your ITC also to pay this particular tax. So the entire, anyway, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm not able to go into the nitty-gritty. So entire point comes wherein, if you look at section 49, the usage of the cash ledger, it is allowed to be used only for tax. So the question was whether this pre-deposit was tax. If you ask me, necessarily it is tax only. Unless it is a only penalty case, it's a different discussion altogether. But typically, it is also tax where tax is involved. So therefore, the entire restriction was there in. I mean, the entire point of discussion was that based on 49 only. So therefore, now after the Supreme Court, this discussion is there, especially in tax cases. There's no doubt about it. You can definitely use your ITC to pay the this one, what is that, pre-deposit. Anyway, since I'm there, I think one more point which I'm just going in a little zigzag manner. I hope all of you are able to follow. I was also discussing one case where, I mean, one point where there's non-appealable orders are there. So that's section 121. There are 4 non-appealable orders also, which you can also keep it in mind. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put a rest to or put a stop to. I can keep on discussing this forward. For want of time, I'll just stop 107 and move on to the section 112 and 113, which talks about tribunal. So anyway, common issues are there which will try to come later, monetary limits, so on and so forth. So now we come to tribunal. Again, the points are similar. I'll discuss in a similar manner. So as far as tribunal is concerned, again, yeah, so what are the appealable orders? Typically, you have the appealable orders that of the order in appeal, first order in appeal, which is the first appellate authority order, is what comes before the tribunal. So that is what is given in the first point here. So any person agreed with the order of the appellate authority or revision authority, RA is revision authority under 108. So you can come before the tribunal. So time limit is 3 months, plus again another 3 months is there. So therefore 6 months here, again from the date of communication of the order. Now here an interesting thing that you'll have to see is here, if you see tribunal, section 112, it uses only the word order, it does not use the word decision. So these are some things that you'll have to really watch out for. But if you ask me, typically order in appeal only coming. For appeal, there'll definitely be an order. So therefore, if you ask me, it's not a lacuna, it's rightly there. So anyway, any orders within plus 3 months condemnation is there. You can file it before the tribunal. As we all know, the tribunal, since it is getting operationalized and many cases, the 6 months time period has expired for the assessees. Now the question was, what happens to the outstanding demand? Especially if there is any confirmation of orders in the first appeal, what happens to those cases? So will section 79 operate? Because once the time limit for filing the appeal is getting expired, then automatically it becomes a due that is supposed to be recovered under section 79. So therefore, can the department initiate recovery action even though the tribunal is not operationalized by the very same government? So that is the question. So fortunately, we had many cases, if I'm right, one in the High Court and I think Supreme Court is also there, which says that no, you can wait till the tribunal is getting operationalized, and then only the recovery will start. I mean, the time limit will start, so on and so forth. Anyway, long story short, all this problem was there. Supreme Court order was there, but later department itself came out with a circular saying that first law is amended. So the law has been amended to the effect that the limitations shall start from the date to be notified. So the date has to be notified by the government. So the government has notified has to notify the date from which this particular limitation is to be counted. So that is point number 1. And point number 2, for pending matters, if I'm right, circular number 224, if I'm right, yeah, circular 224, perfect. So memory is not bad. So circular 224 is also there, which I have also annexed as part of this one. So the book also contains all the relevant circulars, etc., beneath the relevant chapter itself, which you can rely on. And you can read through the entire thing. You may not believe what I've written, so you can just go and read the entire circular also. So the circular, if you see, says that yes, fine, the matters are stayed for now, but because the limitation has also been extended from the date to be notified, point number 1. But it also says that you'll have to pay that extra pre-deposit, which is another 10% now. Earlier it was 20%. Now, Vinodji, as you rightly pointed out, amendment here is also there, where the pre-deposit is again 10% in the second appeal stage, where you'll have to pay that as well. So this circular says that even though the tribunal is not yet operational, fine, the stay is there on recovery. but you pay the extra 10%. From what authority is this circular being given is something we'll have to really see. Whether it is ultra vires, the act or the rules, that's another question. See, this stay of recovery is fine, but where is the requirement of paying this extra 10%, right? So tribunal is not operations, not due to the ASI's fault. So if you ask me, the circular is overreaching, but any case, be it as it may, to balance the interest of the revenue and the taxpayer, this extra 10% pre-deposit has been mandated, pursuant to which the balance amount, which is typically 80% of the demand, 10% already paid, now another 10% is paid, the balance 80% is recovery is stayed till the date to be notified, and the limitation is also expiring. So anyway, here coming very quickly, the continuation again is 3 months normal plus continuation is another 3 months if sufficient cause is there. Electronic appeal is the norm, as all of you know. Many members are sitting here who are already very learned. So, but for the sake of the general audience who are also participating in this, the tribunal is also completely electronic. The filing of the appeal is electronic. There's a separate portal. Please note, it is not the GST portal. A separate common portal is being notified for the tribunal. The NIC portal, which I've also tried to cover in the book, the snapshot of it is there. The user manual has also come, where each appeal or application, how do you go about filing? So there's a separate portal there, but how these two portals are going to speak to each other is a question mark. Hopefully, it will be very smooth. So this NIC portal has been given for tribunal filing. So it's going to be completely electronic, hopefully completely paperless also. So the norm is electronic appeal. There's a separate rule also. If you look at the GST rule also, there's a separate rule specifically saying for providing for electronic proceedings. Not only that, there is a specific rule. Please note this very carefully. For those seasoned practitioners who are sitting here, SESTAT and GST rules are a lot of changes, which I've tried to cover in the book also. If you look at GST rules, electronic filing is the norm, paperless is the norm. Not only that, there are provisions for cross-examination is normal in tribunal. It happens. There's a provision. There are provisions for recording depositions also. So therefore, provision now it's all pursuant to the new criminal laws, etc. All this one is being modernized. All laws are being modernized. So this GST rule is also a modern rule, which is supposed to carry us for the next so many decades. So you will see that provisions for recording depositions are also there. There's a separate form for filing such depositions also, the transcript of it attested by the officers of the tribunal. So rules are there for online conduct of hearing. So virtual hearing, as already know, you have office orders in the central jurisdiction, in the state jurisdiction also. I'm seeing Rajasthan, many other states, they have now issued orders for mandating virtual hearing as a rule. So you see in a tribunal also, the norm is that it is going to be a virtual hearing. So it's an opportunity and a negative point, both hand in hand, but wherever it is there. So it's a virtual hearing that is contemplated. So therefore, something to watch out for. It's going to be really modernistic, hopefully, and all electronic filing, hearings, and depositions, etc., being recorded. So all these provisions have been brought in the GST procedure rules, which I have covered extensively in the book also. So electronic appeal filing, the APL form is also given there. APL file, it's electronic filing. Manual filing, again, with effect from 4/8/2023. It's allowed only in certain cases where you're not able to get the electronic order. Others are similar. There's no requirement for filing certified copies within 7 days, etc. That's only in case where it's a manual filing and not electronic, but you can do it as a matter of utmost precaution. Now, again, non-appealable orders. Now, please note, apart from the general non-appealable orders, in case of a tribunal, if the matter is below 50,000, then in that case, the tribunal has a right to refuse appeal. So this is very important. So this is a special non-appealable order for small matters. Now, typically, you will see that in tribunal, those who have argued before the SESTAT, etc., ITAT, etc., you will know that the matters normally are heard by a bench containing. We'll talk about the benches also quickly for, with your permission, 5 minutes I'll take. And High Court, Supreme Court, I need not tell you. So the provisions are generally governed by the CPC. GST law does not have much to say about High Court and Supreme Court appeals. So except for in case of High Court, the time limit of 180 days, I think is prescribed. Apart from that, everything is through CPC only. So GST law cannot tell much about High Court, Supreme Court. So I'll talk a little bit more on GST law with your permission for another 5 minutes. So as all of you know, in GST and the other tribunals also, there are various benches which are there. Now, anyway, for what I'll do is I'll just cover the other aspects very quickly, then we'll come to these benches. So the pre-deposit is again extra 10% what we have seen, but as I told you, the fee is a unique point for the tribunal. So it's 1,000 for every 1 lakh of tax or ITC involved. So typically, I think it's 1% of the tax amount involved, subject to a minimum of 5,000 and a maximum of 25,000. But there's a small interpretation involved here, especially when multiple taxes are involved. How does it exactly minimum and maximum work out? There's a question mark, but anyway, we'll have to see how the portal law says, and probably we'll have to interpret that. But anyway, what the provision says, the normal fees that has to be paid, apart from, please note, is over and above pre-deposit. Fees which has to be paid is 1%, and the minimum is 5,000, the maximum is 25,000 fee which is there. So typically it should be for each act individually only, but we'll have to see, wait and watch how this works out. Now, apart from that, yeah, so I'm quickly moving across and telling the important points, and then we'll come to the unique aspects. Fine. So all this we have discussed, additional evidence, so on and so forth. Appearance of authorized representatives, my dear CA colleagues and especially CA colleagues who are sitting here, please note your tribunal practice. If you're not been before the tribunal, you'll have to be really careful. GST rules, you have to be really thorough with that. For example, there is a separate, see, you typically go with in case of advocates, wakalatnama is there. In case of CA, the power of attorney is being filed. But if you look at the procedure rules, what I'm trying to say is that procedure rules have to be very thorough, especially GST. For example, in GST procedure rules, it says that you'll have to file a memorandum of appearance. So there's a separate form for this. And not only just filing the POA is enough. So defect can be raised. Therefore, please be very careful. A memorandum of appearance has to be filed. There's a separate form for that, to which your LOA or POA can be attached. So, but a memorandum of appearance is to be filed. So, therefore, what I'm trying to say is, please be very conversant with the fees which are there, the forms which are prescribed, everything is covered here in the book also. So, please be very particular about that. You should not do all the hard work, and then you see that small defects are being, this one causes unnecessary damage, some cases leading to dismissal of your appeal also. Because what happens is, these matters you don't pay attention, or if it does not pay attention, then probably the provisions are there if you look at it. Rule 32, so on and so forth, to reject the appeal also. The registrar has the power, the president has the power to do that. Anyway, so coming to the unique aspect, where was I? Benches of the tribunal, I think I've covered, definitely I've covered it. 1 second. Yeah. Now, let me focus on this. So therefore, the GST procedure rules is something that you'll have to really be thorough with. Then the book also, or go through the procedure rule as such. It has a lot of limitations, a lot of subsections itself are missing in the rules, which I've tried to point out also for those stakeholders of the government who are sitting here. The rules require some revision. There are a little bit of contradiction on the same matters in many provisions. So, but apart from that, for general practitioners who are sitting here, you'll have to be really conversant with it for want of rejection of your appeal for defects. Now, coming to the benches which are there. Now, as I said, you'll have to have a checklist for filing the appeal. This is very important. So the first point that you'll have to see is before which bench are you going to file the appeal. So we have seen that below 50,000, you don't have the right to appeal. Please note, less than 50,000, you don't have the right to appeal. So statute says that. Earlier in central excise law, service tax law, less than 50,000, there is no right to appeal before the appellate tribunal. But there was a joint secretary finance who entertained an executive appeal, who's sitting in North Law, who entertained a executive appeal. So there was no right to appeal before the tribunal, but there was an executive appeal, which is a very unique thing. But till date, there is no such mechanism there in the GST law. There's no executive appeal before the joint secretary and all, but it should come if you ask me. So there's customs even today, there's the concept of small, because there could be situations where the amount may be less than 50,000, but it is a start of a matter which is a recurring matter for you. So therefore, in that cases, you cannot afford to make a I mean, you can't afford your appeal to be rejected. Therefore, there's an executive appeal concept, but that's not there in GST law, but it may come in the future. But anyway, so smaller appeals, no. Some cases, again, limit is there in the book also, which I've tried to say. I think it's less than 10 lakh also, the tax impact is there. Single member bench, single member will be sitting hearing your matters, small matters which are there. So single member bench is also there. Which will hear smaller matters where only one member will be sitting. But apart from that, typically each bench consists of 2 members. See, please note the strength will be this one, as you can see in this chart which is given here. the typical strength of any bench, for example, if you take Tamil Nadu or you take Mumbai, so on and so forth, a particular this one, the strength will be 4, out of which various benches will be constituted. So the members will be taken for single member bench, normal bench, so on and so forth, division bench, so on and so forth, where the strength, the normal strength will be 2 members only for a particular bench. So out of 4, sanctioned this one for each typical bench, division bench is there, 2 members will be sitting. So this is how this one happens. In a smaller appeal case, single member bench will be there where only 1 member will be sitting. That's a exception case where smaller appeals are there. So anyway, if you look at the bench strength, there are 2 benches that you'll have to look at it. One is the principal bench and other is the state bench. So please know the law has changed. Earlier there was a concept of national bench and regional bench. Now it's a concept of principal bench and state bench. So this is the law as amended, which is there. So principal bench, the appeal lies where one of the issues involves place of supply. Now this is a very controversial issue. I don't want to go too much into it. I'll just try to point out the issues which are there, why this is a little controversial. But what I'm trying to say, as I told you, the checklist is there, right? The first thing that you'll have to see is where your appeal is going to be filed. Is it going to be before the principal bench or the state bench? If you go to a matter involving place of supply to a state bench and you file within 3 months, probably it is pending there without getting numbered. Ideally, it should be numbered immediately. It is pending there without getting numbered. Then after so month, the state bench is saying no issue is involved. Registry is saying no, it's an issue involving place of supply. You'll have to go to principal bench. By that time, the 3-month continuation is also gone. Now you are left in limbo. Unfortunately, Section 5 of the Limitation Act comes to your rescue, where that period genuinely have gone to a different forum, that period can be excluded. But again, you'll have to go to the High Court probably to establish that Section 5 or Limitation Act and then come to the principal bench. Because Section 5 Limitation Act has to be argued before the High Court. So any case, if you go before the wrong forum, it is a problematic thing. Unnecessarily, your case may get dragged or rejected in a worst case scenario. So be very careful. The first tick mark is where you are going to file your appeal. Is it the state bench or the principal bench? So principal bench typically involves one of the issues. Suppose 5 issues are there, one of them is involving place of supply. Also, the matter goes before the principal bench only. Otherwise, it's before the state bench. The principal bench will always sit in New Delhi, and it will contain the president. President will be sitting only in the principal bench, as all of you know. The president who is presently there, Sanjay Kumar Mishra, etc. Right, the current incumbent president who is there, sitting in New Delhi in the principal bench. As all of you know, principal bench has already given one matter with respect to anti-profiteering, one decision. Please note, a principal bench will hear matters where one of the issues involves place of supply. Now the power as rules have been amended where it can also entertain matters as may be notified, and anti-profiteering is one of the matters which are notified. That's why you saw the first judgment of the anti-profiteering matter before the principal bench. The first decision was the anti-profiteering matters. So as of now, the principal bench will sit at New Delhi, contain the president as one of the members, and it can listen matters where one of the issues involving place of supply plus notified matters. One of the notified matters, as on date, at least the only notified matter is anti-profiteering. So place of supply matters, anti-profiteering matters, etc. go before the principal bench. Otherwise, typically it is before the state bench. So principal bench will contain the president. Apart from the president, plus it will also contain a judicial member, plus a technical member, one from the state, one from the center. So both the central and the state government have members sitting there. So whereas you come to state bench, it will contain technical members, one from the state and one from the center, and it will also contain 2 judicial members. So 2 judicial members and 2 technical members, this is a norm. And in the principal bench, one of the judicial members is the president. Please note the president typically does only administrative matters. He does not hear any matters directly. But you saw that the first decision of the principal bench was directly heard, and the order was also passed by the president. But typically he sees only the administrative matters. Anyway, so that's what I've tried to cover here. So with effect from 27/9/2024, anti-profiteering matters are also before the principal bench, right? So anyway, I'll just probably stop with this because I already overshot the time. I'll just stop with one matter. I'll try to tell you that why I have to be so meticulously careful. Probably last question, I'll throw it to the members, August members, learned members who are sitting here. Now, let me ask you a question. In fact, in our office, we are doing a small exercise. This first case we took, believe it or not, we are just looking at what are the pending litigations are there. The first case, okay, let's touch this case and let's see which matter of the bench will fall before. Believe it or not, it was an intermediary matter. Intermediary, the matter was whether it is an export of service section and zero rated section 16 of the IGST Act, whether refund is to be granted or not to be granted, refund rejection matter, typically speaking. Now, if you see the matter in that case, intermediary is with respect to section 16 read with section 2 subsection 6 IGST Act. Incidentally, you have to determine the question of place of supply. Are you able to follow? So it's not a direct question with respect to place of supply. Rather, the question is flowing from 13 subsection 8 read with section 16 and read with 2 subsection 6, and then incidentally you'll have to refer 13 subsection 8 for that one. So place of supply, it's an incidental question you'll have to determine. Now, the question comes whether, now let me ask you this question. For this matter, where it is a refund rejection matter, whether it is a zero rated supply or not, will it come before the principal bench or will it come before the state bench? What do the learned members feel here? Our office was exactly divided in the middle. So let me see what answers I'm getting. Hopefully all of you are also there at 7:55 and you're able to answer also. Sorry for overshooting the time, but can I have some answers? Principal bench, state bench, see, exactly 50-50. So when the provision says where one of the issues involving place of supply, is it a direct issue or is it a case where the section, if you refer to, may not directly relate to place of supply, but incidentally you'll have to answer the question regarding place of supply, then only you will be able to answer this question also. So this is a very pertinent question, but if you ask me, many such cases, especially with respect to export of service or not, typically you'll have to touch upon place of supply only. So there it becomes a question whether you'll have to file before the principal bench or before the state bench, and if you file before the state bench wrongly, then probably, hopefully, Limitation Act Section 5 will come to your rescue. So this one I'll conclude this session. Thank you all for patiently listening. So I know I overshot my time. Any questions are there? I'll take it up.
If anyone has any question, they can either unmute themselves or you can put the questions in the chat box as well. Either way, it will be okay. Any questions or any feedbacks also?
And probably we should, we'll have a detailed session also, because the way in which I go, it's like even 107 I'll not be able to cover in an hour's time. But anyway, I think I've given an overview of the entire thing.
It was
Yes,
as always a fantastic learning session, Saravana Prabhu sir. It was great listening to you, and it was in-depth learning for me, personally speaking. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Teja, and thank you, Vinodji. Thank you, Deepak ji.
So I think we can
Pranjal, over to
conclude
you.
this session now.
Yeah.
We can conclude this session now. Thank you so much, sir. I think I actually agree with Naga 100% that this was actually a very enlightening session, from clearing our basics to the GST Appellate Tribunal and the GST Tribunal. You have covered all the things in depth, and we are actually looking forward to many more sessions with you now. Today's session was really interesting. Thank you so much. We were honored to have you with us on our platform today, and I think all the participants feel the same.
Thank you so much, Pranjali, and thank you for educating for the